Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Grindhouse, where we drink coffee and talk about movies. My name is Shawn Tetrault, and today with my girlfriend and co-host, Leah Diana, we will be winding back the reel to the year 1984. Sent back from a dystopian 2029, where the cold machines have conquered the entire world, the indestructible cyborg assassin known as the Terminator commences his deadly mission to kill humankind's most important woman, the unsuspecting Sarah Connor. However, from the same war-torn post-apocalyptic future comes a battle-scarred defender, Kyle Reese, a brave soldier of the Human Resistance Army, bent on stopping the cybernetic killer from eliminating the world's last hope. But the Terminator has no feelings. He doesn't sleep. And above all, he won't stop until he carries out his grim task. Does our future lie in the past? Let's get into it.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other. This weapon will be powerful, versatile, and indestructible. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It will feel no pity, no remorse, no pain, no fear. It will have only one purpose: to return to the present and prevent the future. This weapon will be called the Terminator.
You're dead, honey.
What day is it? The date!
12th May, Thursday.
What year? I'm here to help you. I'm Reese, DN 38416, assigned to protect you. You've been targeted for termination.
Why does it want me? Why me?
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator. Your future is in its hands.
Spread the word, you dirty cocksuckers. Tell all your grave robbing friends I want them out of the city now!
The nightmare of insane murder. From the depths of hell. To the angel of death. Only at the Grindhouse.
So I believe you have a story for our audience today.
So, I bought a new bottle. Non-sponsored. It's called the Hydrate Spark. It lights up and flashes when I need to drink water because I'm really bad at keeping up with staying hydrated. So I bought a new bottle. It's all Bluetooth and bullshit. And while we were watching this movie, I received a reminder to drink my water. And it says, "Your body is like the Terminator. Hasta la agua. Take a sip, baby."
That's horrifying.
It's terrifying because we were at the end climax of the fucking movie, and I had to be like, hold on, pause. This just actually happened.
I believe Skynet is working its way into the water filtration industry.
And I am just like, I have never mentioned the word Terminator or the Terminator ever. I don't even think we said it more than once today when preparing for this.
I don't think we did.
That's fucking terrifying.
Just a little.
Anyways.
So, if you couldn't guess, today we watched James Cameron's debut film. Well, not really debut film, but the one most people know him for, the Terminator.
Really? Because I'd think Titanic and Avatar now would be on the top of people's lists. I
Yes, but
forgot this was James Cameron.
This is the film that put him on the map.
Okay.
Even though technically he directed Piranha 2 before this. But
What?
nobody remembers that.
I don't even remember that.
This film was written by James Cameron and Gale Ann Hurd, who Gale Ann Hurd also produced the film. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton, and Paul Winfield. The movie was made on a budget of $6.4 million and grossed in $78.3 million at the box office.
So it might have been a success.
This was a monumental fucking success.
Okay.
By Hollywood standards, this was made on a shoestring budget.
$6 million is a shoestring budget?
Shoestring budget, and this blew the fucking doors off in 1984.
Yikes.
So how did you feel after watching it?
I was bored.
The whole time?
About 80% of the time I was bored.
Really?
Yeah, okay, now I can officially say I've never seen this movie. Because I've seen the one where I've seen clips of the one where he says, "Hasta la vista, baby."
You saw Terminator 2.
Yes, and I'm sitting there the whole time going, where's the liquid cop?
So
That's the one I know.
You had the experience that I think most people growing up had, where they saw Terminator 2 and never saw, or they either never saw the first Terminator or they saw the sequel first. So the first one didn't really do it for
And I've
them.
only seen bits and pieces of that one, like when my dad would watch it on like a movie channel or something in the afternoon on a weekend.
Right.
I've never actually sit there because I never cared for this kind of movie. And I can tell you this, I was bored. I really was. I tried my best to stay engrossed in it.
That hurts my fucking soul.
But sorry.
Oh my god.
It did have some good points.
The whole thing is a good point.
Sure.
Oh man. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be completely crushed.
Devastated.
My soul is fractured.
You're fine. There's many more movies I might like.
Yeah.
I didn't hate this movie. It just was boring. And maybe that's because it's a movie from the early 80s or mid 80s. And I've seen better action movies. I literally could have fallen asleep.
So that's the thing. This isn't really an action movie.
Like a thriller?
You could call it a thriller. First and foremost, this is a slasher film.
I was going to say, if you say this is a romance, I'm going to throw this coffee at you.
This is it's got romance elements, but this is a slasher film. Just done with guns and robots.
What?
Yes. Take a look at it compared to anything like Friday the 13th. Well, not the first Friday the 13th, but like the later Friday the 13th movies. You have your main protagonist pursued by an unstoppable killer. The ending sequence is a perfect example of like the stalk and slash format. This thing's just coming at them with everything it has, and they're doing everything they can to try and survive.
I'm still going to say action.
It's an action horror.
I think
but
because
it's a slasher film.
the Terminator movies are in that niche of action. Even if this was meant to be more of like a slasher film, it still is like it's an action movie to me. Like you can't put it in any other category for me.
I think Terminator gained an action persona because of the sequels. But if this had been the only movie, like if they had not done it anymore and this was the only Terminator, I guarantee you it would be regarded as a slasher film. It would be an action slasher, but it's a slasher.
I don't see this as horror. There was no horror to me. There was no scary to me. It was like, oh, okay.
Well, this isn't your standard. It's not like gore horror. It's a dread horror. This killer is coming after them, pursuing them throughout the whole movie. It's like if you were to... It's less related to like Friday the 13th and more to like Halloween or even in some ways Nightmare on Elm Street, but like where you just have this force, this presence that's pursuing the characters each step of the way.
Okay, but I'm gonna sit over here in my disagreement bubble.
You can disagree all you want, but I'm not the only one who sees it this way.
Exactly, and that's fine.
You want to get into it?
So, you're telling me this is 2029? Again, that's in 7 years.
Once again, this is another example of like when this movie was made, they dated it in the distant future from 1994. But, of course, we're closing in on those future years, and actually one of them they mentioned we surpassed.
Yeah, it was
2015, I believe.
2015, yeah.
But, and we're nowhere near this type of technology, and that's okay. Honestly, like, you're gonna run into that with thousands and thousands of movies.
I love how movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s are like, in the 2020s. Like, look, all that shit that you thought would be happening in the 2020s, we just have a global pandemic, and we have very, like, I hate people. That's all I'm saying. Like, this is not the future that all of these people were thinking of. It's not.
No. And I think the thing that's cool is that James Cameron actually had the foresight, or at least the smarts to even have Kyle say that the future he's from is only a possible future. He only mentions it once, but it's enough to allow this to still exist in our time frame.
Which is kind of cool, because it kind of makes you... Watching it now, I didn't watch it when I was younger or anything, but this is my first viewing of this movie. It takes kind of... And it's funny because there's a Marvel movie sitting on our television right now. It takes that multiverse kind of seriously, that different dimensions, different multiverses, different points in time, different timelines. It kind of makes it make more sense, because I did kind of catch him say that. I was like, oh, okay, all right, I can believe that.
Yeah, it also allows for everything we've gotten from the Terminator franchise to coexist together. Like, just that one throwaway line means, like, oh, well, technically, Terminator Salvation, Genesis, all this other stuff that we've gotten in the years since are just possible versions of the event.
It's not one linear time. It could be different branches.
Yeah, when you get into time travel and time manipulation, these are the types of arenas you're playing in.
That's why Marvel's getting smart. Just saying.
Marvel's doing it very well.
So, I appreciate all the minis. The beginning was a lot of minis. Some of them are better than others. But you could tell that they made that.
Minis?
Like the landscape. That looked like it was all miniatures.
Oh, all right.
You mean looking at me like that?
Well, you said minis. It was kind of...
I didn't say Mickeys. I said minis.
First, like, right from the opening, I love seeing that old Orion logo. It gets me right in the mood.
I was like, oh, shit.
Like you were saying, we immediately open into this violent, dark, dystopian future. It's a landscape. It's like ravaged by war. The bones of God knows how many people are just being crushed beneath the wheels of machines. And then we get this opening text that I would like to recount here. The machines rose from the ashes of the nuclear fire. Their war to exterminate mankind had raged for decades, but the final battle would not be fought in the future. It would be fought here, in our present. tonight. That, I felt, encapsulated the entire tone of what we were about to get. Like, it sets us up very early on for, this is what we're fighting to stop. This is what these characters are going to be trying to prevent. And then we're thrust into the past. And we meet Sarah Connor.
We don't meet her right away.
No.
No, I would like to point out that I did not think I was going to see Arnold Schwarzenegger's ass right away in the beginning of this movie.
Yes.
Arnie is buck naked. And Bill Paxton. Baby Bill Paxton.
Yes, we get cameos from both Bill Paxton and Brian Thompson as two of the punks that Arnold absolutely eviscerates to get his clothes.
Who's Brian Thompson?
Brian Thompson was the guy that Arnold shoved his arm through.
Oh, and ripped his heart out?
Brian Thompson's huge in, like, a lot of movies. He's actually in Cobra as well. He's in a bunch of other shit.
I thought it was cute. I was like, Bill Paxton, there's no tornadoes. What are you doing?
Bill Paxton's a staple in Cameron stuff. This was his first one.
Oh, shit, he's in Titanic. He's in the beginning of Titanic, isn't he? I forget, because all you think of is Leo and Rose.
He's in...
is he in Avatar?
Aliens.
Oh my god, that's right. James Cameron is Alien.
Yep.
Not Alien.
Aliens.
So you can answer this, Mr. Movie Dude.
Yes.
What is the difference between an actor's name being credited alone and an actor's name having featuring in their character name?
So featuring generally is used if it's a first-time performance.
Okay.
Or it'll either say, like, featuring or introducing. Sometimes it'll say featuring if it's, like, a bigger name. Like, if you have a cast of no-names and then you're like, well, we paid to have this bigger actor in the movie.
Okay.
So they'll put featuring Bill Paxton or whatever. Okay.
Because I've always been, like, really curious as to what that meant. Arnie was extremely young looking when he did this. His name is Arnie because I couldn't spell Arnold and I couldn't spell Schwarzenegger. So I just keep calling him Arnie.
Yes.
He was very young doing this movie.
This was Arnold's first movie.
Is that why he didn't have many lines?
Actually, no. I'm wrong. This is Arnold's second movie. His first movie was, I believe, it was called, like, Hercules in New York. And he was they actually dubbed over all of his dialogue because the producers didn't think anybody would be able to understand him.
He's not that hard to understand.
No. But this was his first, like, breakout performance. But before we go any further, we completely negated to talk about our beverages for today.
I have been drinking my beverage. It's the same New England. No, this is Barissimo.
We are drinking Barissimo Coffee's Caramel Macchiato once again this week.
Yes, and I put pumpkin spice and it tastes a little better.
It's growing on me a little bit.
I mean, it's growing the lower it gets because we can get to a different coffee.
But anyway.
It's hot, so it's cold right now.
The theme music that we get right in the opening moments of the movie during the credits is it's one of the most iconic film scores ever.
I've never heard it before today.
You've never heard the Terminator theme?
No. And I've been to Universal Studios.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, I hear I'm like, it sounds like the cast of Stomp made this movie.
Well, this is one of the most iconic themes in film history. Almost every film fan knows it. Mostly from Terminator 2. But this is where it began. The Terminator himself was created by Stan Winston, who, I don't know if you know, Stan Winston's probably one of the biggest effects artists there's ever been. He created all the effects in all the Terminator films, the Aliens, countless other things, and even though Stan Winston is no longer with us, his studio today continues to create some of the greatest movie monsters and stuff like that there are.
Dude's good at his terrifying things. Let's see. The synth music in this must make you very excited because you like that synth score.
I love the score of this movie.
Some of it was weirdly placed.
Some of it.
Like, you can tell, you're like, this could have done without, like, a little more actiony, less synth. But it is the 80s.
It's
New
the
wave
80s.
synth was huge.
It's the 80s, and you're dealing with a, like, cyber horror type of subject matter. Which, hilariously, like, I love the fact that Sarah goes into a club named Tech-Noir.
Yeah, that
which
was
is
funny.
Basically what this movie is.
I forgot how much, because we were introduced to Sarah and everything. I forgot how much I wish my hair could look like feathered 80s fucking hair.
Oh, I know.
Oh my god.
It's really
like,
cool.
just the oh my god, the volume and the bullshit that those girls can do with their hair. I'm like,
well, that was
such flat hair.
That was a detail I liked about this movie is like James Cameron doesn't make any effort to keep the movie ungrounded in a time period. Like a lot of people will try and make a movie and they'll attempt to make all the actors wear clothing that aren't set in the period
Like
that
neutral
they're in.
kind of. You'd see those pieces in everybody's wardrobe.
This one, he fully embraces it. He embraces the music. He embraces the style.
She's got feathered hair, tie-dyed shirt, acid wash jeans that are higher than mom jeans. I'm like, and she's got the white high top sneakers.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, 80s. Like, there is no misplacing
And
where
it's
this
great.
movie was made.
Because, like, the whole series has hinged on the fact that movie took place in 1984. Like, it actually... it being grounded in that time is perfect. I think. Like, I don't think it would have worked in any other time period.
No.
At least not as well.
Yeah.
The visual effects throughout this movie, like, there's not a lot of visual effects. Most of it's practical.
Yeah.
But, like, you get the lightning when they come through time, and the laser blast when you see the future stuff, and that stuff all looks really good still. Surprisingly, I thought it was gonna look cheesy.
I mean, I thought it was a little cheesy, but it wasn't cheesy enough to take me out of the film. It was cheesy enough to be like, oh, okay, I could believe that there are plasma guns in 2029. I could believe that it takes an immense amount of power to travel somebody in time, because they use lightning in Back to the Future too, which I think is after this. Yes,
85.
85.
Yeah.
It's the next year. So it doesn't take you out of it. Like, everybody assumes, oh, time travel, lightning. Oh, future plasma guns, pew pew pew. It's gonna be laser. Like, you assume those things. So none of the effects took me out of it. Robo Arnie was a little like, you could see the outlines and the effect. Sometimes the effect was a little like.
Are you talking about towards the end of the movie?
Towards the end of the movie, yeah. That's the only time where I was like, it's not bad, but it didn't age well.
I can agree. The towards the end of the movie, the Terminator, that effect doesn't hold up as well. But me personally, I love seeing stop motion. I don't care how janky it looks.
Oh no, stop motion is amazing.
It makes me so happy every time I get to the end of that movie and I see that stop motion animation combined with Stan Winston's puppet. It looks so good. I love every second of it.
The only thing that takes me out with stop motion is the fact that you can see and I think that's just because we're so used to now digital effects and things are very streamlined.
See, but I love seeing that.
I don't hate seeing it. It's just kind of, it makes me go, oh, okay, this is a movie pre-digital CG becoming really good. That's all that means to me. I have if the whole movie's a stop motion, like Tim Burton movies, it doesn't take me out. I'm used to the fact that it's going to be stop motion good. Right. If you put stop motion in a movie, like, not as well, I want to say Ghostbusters might be.
Ghostbusters has a few.
Yeah, Ghostbusters has a
moments.
few kind of where you're like, oh, that doesn't look very good. The Ghostbusters is a whole nother demon that we'll get to.
Oh yeah, eventually.
Let's see. What do my notes say?
Oh, I don't know how you felt about actual like Arnold in this movie. Like from the moment I first see him on screen, I feel like he does such an incredible job as the Terminator. Like he presents this cold, empty, completely robotic nature. Like every movement feels machine-like, and like his physique probably helps. Because
he's a very boxy person, so he has to
when he stands up out of that fog in the very beginning and he's just super rigid and looking around, that is like, I feel like he sells that so well.
He does, but also I believe he might be a little cold. He needs some pants.
Well, I'm sure.
Like the moment that scene came up, I'm like, Arnold missed ass day. His ass is he's got a little butt. He's a little bodybuilder butt. I don't know. I don't like action movies. So this one was tough to sit through. Like I'm sorry. I'm not an action movie person, but it was still pretty good. It was pretty good. It's like, okay, I've watched a classic. Cool.
I'll take it.
Some of the things that I noticed, when he crushes the toy truck in the beginning, it's very much foreshadowing for the end.
Yes.
I thought Arnold's character was a good guy, so I was fucking confused as hell in the beginning of this movie. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I've seen the newest Terminator that came out. I've seen the previews. I've seen the trailer. I've heard of, like, the other ones. Like, I thought Arnold was the good guy and the other guy was the bad guy. I'm like, what is going on?
He is in the following films, but this is how it began.
I was shook. I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. Isn't Arnold the good guy? What's happening?
Well, that's what makes those sequels. That's what made Terminator 2 so impactful, which we'll get to eventually.
Yeah, because it is in the wheelhouse, though.
We're shortly after meeting Arnold, we are introduced to Kyle Reese, who's played by Michael Biehn. And, well, his introduction, he's violently thrown through time rather than arriving very elegantly like the Terminator. I'm very surprised that Michael Biehn didn't become like a bigger action star after this movie.
He's really good in this.
I love his performance in this, and I've honestly loved him in everything he's done. And he's done a lot. It always baffles me. Like, how come his career didn't take off?
I think he was overshadowed by Arnie. Honestly, I really think that Linda Hamilton's performance and Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance overshadowed him so much that people were like, yeah, you're good, but what about these other two? Like, Linda had to be very young when she did this.
Yeah, but even still, like, his performance throughout this is so strong.
It is.
Like,
it's very good.
He delivers intensity through so many scenes, like when he's trying to like save Sarah's life, or like when they're in the police station and everything. He, like, it's incredible, especially once you learn that he's been in love with her for all these years.
We'll get to all that afterwards. We will get to that. Honestly, I've seen so much of clips from the other movies that I was honestly thinking Sarah was going to be more badass. I was like, why is she a total milquetoast?
Yet again, this is where it started.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that watching this, I was like, and I looked up stuff going, what the fuck? I don't understand what's going on. And then I kind of sat there and went, okay, I've never touched this movie, never seen it, never understood it. So the other movies were different to me, I guess. But that's like the risk of watching these movies out of order, or like watching the sequel before the original or the remake before. You never know like where you're gonna land. And my opinion of this movie was like, it's not as good. Because the twists and turns in the other ones are so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, I didn't hate it.
Doesn't help that James Cameron's like the master of sequels.
Look, I'm shocked there wasn't a Titanic 2. Still to this day,
Well,
there could have been.
no.
Raise the ship from the waters.
I can't imagine what he's got planned for Avatar 2.
I'm pretty sure that I was in my early 20s when Avatar came out, and I am in my mid-30s now, James. Mid-30s.
Hey, let him take his time.
Good Lord.
He's developing gold.
I hate Avatar.
Moving on.
Hate it.
Something I thought was really cool was that this film is mostly presented in like dark, harsh lighting.
Yeah.
Which for me at least it kind of bled that cold future into the present day. So like even though we're set like decades prior to the horrors that are awaiting, we sort of see that even though that we have a long time to wait, it's not that far away. Like, it's still there.
Yeah. And he even says, like, when the nuclear war happens in a few years, and you're like, what's a few years? Like, are we talking 80s, 90s, early 2000s? Like, it could be a couple years, could be a couple decades.
Yeah.
And I was very interested in that line. But I did notice that a lot of the action happens at night. Once they wake up under the bridge and they go for the motel, it's lighter, it's happier. You can see the relationship developing in the light. So it's kind of telling you there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to get through the harshness in order to get to that point.
But it also makes sense narratively too, because later on Kyle explains that it's easier for them to move around at night because the Terminator will have a harder time finding them.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Like, I think it was smart that he kept the major action scenes at night.
Yeah.
Because it followed that way of thinking. By the way, I love the very obvious Nike ad shot right at the beginning when Kyle's getting his clothes.
Oh my gosh. I just have to point out that when I was really excited, the most excited I was at this film was the iguana. I was just like, little dude, look at him. And then you and I both looked at each other and went, meh. I thought the iguana was a cute kind of touch. Like, there's no, other than dogs, there really wasn't any life in the future. But here you have, like, dogs, and you have the iguana, and you have friends and music, and...
Well, I thought the iguana was a funny touch because, like, normally that would have been a role cast with, like, a cat.
Yeah.
But they chose an iguana.
Which is perfect. I loved it.
It's a very California type of thing.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, God. Payphones. There's so much use of payphones in this film.
Yes.
And it makes you realize how fucking useful these stupid fucking things are.
Yeah. One of the reasons I don't think this would work as well if it was, like, done now. It's pretty interesting to rewatch this movie, at least from my perspective, and, like, knowing that Reese grew up with, like, during the war, like, with the machines and everything, because, like, you see him come back into what was present day at that time, and you know that this is all foreign to him. Like, he's seeing all these people walking around
and just normal.
Like, it's got to be a culture shock, like, if you really try to put yourself in his place.
Like, you can automatically see him. He goes up to the homeless guy and takes his pants and automatically just starts, like, fight or flight. It's automatic fight or flight. And he doesn't learn really to blend in until he's like, okay, now I have to find her. Now I have to find Sarah. And he tries his hardest, and I'm just like, this poor baby.
He does a good job.
He does. He does a good job, but you're just kind of sitting there going, oh, come here, you little cinnamon toast child. Come here. Come have a meal. Come get warm, you poor thing. You feel bad because not in the beginning. Well, in the beginning of the movie, I wasn't, like, really understanding. But more towards the end when he was describing the future to Sarah, and I'm just like, this kid is never known just, like, relaxing for a moment.
No.
I'm like, this sucks.
We get a short scene early on where Arnold steals a car. Broad daylight, walks up, punches through the window, takes it. Interesting fact about that scene is that James Cameron stole that shot. So that whole scene, they didn't have permits to shoot that. I think that happened towards the end of shooting. They just literally like parked the car on the side of the road in like a neighborhood somewhere and had Arnold walk up, punch through the window, and take the car. It was awesome.
The guerrilla movie making.
Oh, gotta love it.
Parking garages are really creepy.
Generally.
Oh my god. I was like, and it's not creepy that you're following this girl around. Like, the whole time he's like, oh, I'm coming to save her life. I'm watching you like, oh, really?
You know, he's gotta, though.
I know. It's that, but, like, you gotta... I was hoping that John would have warned him. Like, hey, my mom grew up in the 80s when things were happy and fun and you didn't stalk ladies. Be a little cautious. Like, you could have warned him a little.
Well, I'm sure he did, but you...
Or Sarah herself could have been like, hey, I'm a little skittish and kind of a kid. Be careful, you know?
Well, you gotta think. It's storytelling. They're not gonna give you every detail.
It is, but in my opinion, if you're gonna do it, put a little realism in this. I enjoy realism in some stuff. There was hardly any realism in here.
Speaking of Sarah, we meet her in this movie at a very young age. She's dealing with the troubles of every day back then. She's working a job she hates.
Customer service in fast food, treating you like shit.
Being treated like trash by the customers.
Sounds familiar.
So we see her in a prime state for everything to become uprooted.
Yeah.
We get a nice little cameo scene from the legendary Dick Miller as the gun shop owner. Dick Miller, for those who don't know, is infamous throughout film. He pops up. He's the neighbor in Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
The one that gets run over by the thing?
He's in Night of the Creeps. He's in so many fucking movies, and he's amazing every time. Love Dick Miller.
Oh boy. Fun fact, I did not know that Linda Hamilton was married to James Cameron for 2 years.
Yes, she was.
I saw that and went, what?
James Cameron has a pretty colorful past when it comes to
the ladies?
Relationships, at least.
Colorful how?
Well, just in terms of, like, after this, he dated Linda Hamilton. He was married to, what the hell is her name? She directed The Hurt Locker.
I don't know what that is.
Another filmmaker for a long time, but I feel like that happens a lot in the film industry. Like, directors will date actresses, or, like, you just end up in relationships with people you work with. That's
just how it goes.
Well, it's how it went. I don't know if it still goes that way as much.
I don't think people are serial daters more in Hollywood because the paparazzi's up your fucking ass.
Yeah.
How many relationships do you think paparazzi have ruined in Hollywood?
I can't even.
Versus like the implosion of a relationship, like internally.
Well, it puts a lot of pressure.
That's so much, especially actors and actresses. Like, I feel bad.
Steering back in, we have our infamous first kill scene. Sarah Connor. Yes.
I was like, damn, Arnie. He blew her away.
That scene is so fucking awesome and iconic and memorable.
Damn. Like, what?
That actually reminds me, like, James Cameron utilizes slow motion really well in this movie. Like, you have all these moments like that one, or where Sarah's roommate gets killed, where it just suddenly switches into slow motion, and you, like, really feel that, like, dread of him coming in with a
You know
gun.
there's no way to escape, so why not slow it down and just prolong the torment?
Like, these people are being hunted and taken out. It's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Cameron brutalizes the violence in this movie pretty well. Like, each moment is strong, impactful, terrifying in a lot of ways.
A little bit, yeah.
Which actually brings me to the tech-noir scene. That scene, I feel, at least when I watch that now, feels so fucking relevant with the threat of active shooters that we have today.
And how many shooters have gone up in nightclubs?
Yeah. And
like,
it's very raw, and it's very real.
It's very scary. Like, you think of that, like, he did this movie, like, oh, this scene would be really impactful and really, you know, but damn, like he gunned down a fuckload of people, and, like, that's terrifying, but it shows you what the price of Sarah Connor is at that point. Like, she is so important that it does. Even Reese didn't care who he shot and who he did it in. It was more or less like, you're in the way, boom, bye. It was like,
well,
ooh.
He had to protect her at all costs. The future literally depends on it.
Oh man, like, I liked the fashion when we were in the techno-noir scene. Very 80s, very leaned into what the fashion looked like in the mid-80s. The music, the feel, the very carefree spirit of people back then. And I kind of liked that. And she was just kind of the odd duck out, just kind of like waiting, sitting there, wondering what's going to happen next to her. I mean, she's just realized that 2 other women named Sarah Connor were just killed.
Violently slaughtered.
It's like, woo!
I liked that little moment where Reese sees the construction equipment, and, like, he remembers back to his time.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a cool scene that, like, kind of puts you in his perspective, and, like,
oh, this is what life was like when all of this was just normal stuff. Like, it wasn't meant to kill the human race. It was just, you know, everyday.
But also, it gives you a look into his PTSD that he must have growing up like that.
God.
And I don't know, like, it's cool that he's not completely disconnected from it being in our time.
Yeah. I mean, somebody coming back to, like, the 80s and that time could be like, oh, well, if I just live my life through here, I'll be fine. It doesn't matter. I don't have to go back. But it just shows how important and how much he loves Sarah Connor to put his entire life in existence on the line for it.
Yeah. Well, because you also have to take into account that there's no way for him to go home.
No.
Like,
he's stuck there.
He came back.
And then they destroyed the machine, he said.
Yeah. Something I noticed during the tech-noir scene was that Cameron makes no attempt throughout the early moments of this film to showcase that visually that Arnold is a cyborg. It isn't until right after we see him take tons of bullets that we get our first look at Terminator vision.
Yeah.
And then right after that, we get Reese explains to Sarah what Arnold is.
What he is, yeah.
I thought that was really cool because, like, I even noticed as he was taking the gunshots in the nightclub, you hear a couple of little metal hits in there.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, ooh, that's a nice touch because, like, otherwise you wouldn't have really known.
You would have been like, why aren't you? You just got gunned down. Why aren't you on the floor? Like, what's happening?
I mean, we knew going in, but, like, at that time...
Going into the movie back in 1984, you didn't know shit.
No, you were learning as Sarah was, essentially.
Yeah. And then in Tech Noir, there is, and I know this is one of the most infamous lines from this movie. Come with me if you want to live.
Yes, which is most notably, like, if you ask anybody on the street right now, you say, who says,
Arnold
come with
said
me
it.
if you want to live?
I thought Arnold said it. And
He
when
did
Reese
not.
said it, I'm like,
Originally,
what?
it was Kyle Reese's line.
But Arnold has re-said that line
In other movies.
Like, come with me if you want to live. And, sorry, I had to itch my ankle. It hurt. It itchy. And, like, you're sitting there like, I'm sorry, what? You didn't say this infamous line? This other kid who, you know, is a peanut butter cup fucking said this line? What? It kind of blew my mind a little bit. Yeah, it was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
Well, fucking Arnold does get to say the infamous "I'll be back."
All right, when we get there, I have a bone to pick with this line. I do. I have a bone to pick this. I was a little upset with Reese, like, screaming at her. She's fucking losing her mind. She's getting shot at. She doesn't know what's wrong with her. She doesn't know what's happening. She's trying to, like, he's screaming at her.
Yes.
It emphasizes the seriousness, but also I'm putting myself in the shoes, because I've been there, of a 19-year-old girl who is just like, stranger danger, get away. I want my mom. I want the police.
Yes. You do have to look at it from Reese's perspective, though. He's doing everything he can to keep her alive. He knows the seriousness of the situation, and she doesn't. He's... he comes from a time where if you fuck up once, you're dead.
Yeah.
So he's trying his best to emphasize to her that she has to fucking listen to him.
Yeah. You have to live or else all of this is gone.
Yeah. And I understand where you're coming from, but I definitely, like, you have to look at it from his point of
I
view.
like realism. Realism is where I'm at with movies and anything.
And I think that's very realistic.
Screaming at a 19-year-old girl?
Yeah. Well,
He's lucky he didn't get his face punched in with, or kicked. Just like, wah.
in that exact set of situations, like circumstances, yes, I think that's realistic.
Modern days, I'd have a taser in his balls. There you go.
And then
Thanks
you'd
for
be
yelling
dead.
at me. Look, I didn't say I was a smart woman. I just said I was the woman, okay? I got a taser. That's all I need.
We get a nice performance from Lance Hendrickson in this movie. He plays the second command cop, right? Yes.
Yeah.
He he later goes on to play Bishop in Aliens.
Oh, that's why I recognize him. I'm like,
And,
who's this motherfucker?
And Michael Biehn also is in Aliens. Bill Paxton is in Aliens. He carries a lot of people over.
I gotta watch Aliens again. All I know is Ridley becomes a fucking babysitter. Ripley. Fucking Sigourney Weaver. The scene that made me kind of go ugh, was the Arnie mask and him ripping his eye out and, like, cutting his own arm to fix his thing. And just, like, ugh, I was so, like, you can tell he's a cyborg because when he's in the car, his eyebrows are completely burned off.
Yeah.
And it's just the face and the flesh, and his eye's damaged, so he has to pop his eye out, and his cyborg eyeball is showing. And it's like, oh.
I really liked those scenes. Like, I think the effects for those don't hold up as well. But they are really good for the time.
Yeah.
And Stan Winston's puppetry with that Arnie head was really good.
Honestly, the only reason why I knew it wasn't a real face is because the film is in too high definition and there's no pores.
Yeah.
It's a latex mask, you can tell.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's still moved pretty well.
Very good.
And I'm like, the only reason why I can tell is because you guys did not anticipate Blu-ray and 4K.
Nobody could have.
Like, if that's like on a regular VHS, you couldn't tell.
No.
But I'm looking at it going, the skin's not oily and there's no pores. That's the only reason why I could tell it was a mask. Other than that, really good replica of Arnold Schwarzenegger's face.
Yeah. So after the tech-noir scene, that we've got Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor together. There's a scene, they run through the parking garage, they're hiding from police, and they hide out in a car for a few minutes. And this is one of the big moments of the movie. This is where Kyle lays everything out to her.
Yeah.
He tells her about the future. He tells her about John, and why he was sent back. And I personally love the way that Cameron shoots this scene, because it's beautifully intense is the best way I can put it, because he has them both hunkered down in this car, and you imagine this whole moment from Sarah's point of view.
Yeah.
Like, he focuses you mostly on Kyle's face as, like, he tries to emote to her how important she is. And, like, imagine being in her shoes and being told that you're the savior of the world, essentially.
You're the mother of the future.
Like
what?
Your son is humanity's only hope. Like, how heavy is that? That is insane.
I mean, at one point, I had put... What did I write? After he hands her the gun in the motel, I'm like, imagine if she just shot herself in the head right now. Like, that's what I thought. Like, this is such a heavy thing to put on this 19-year-old girl that I just saw that gun and I was like, Sarah going, there's a way out. Like, and I wonder if that character, not Linda Hamilton, obviously, but that character would have ever looked at that gun being handed to her like, do I want to do this? Do I not? And you can see her change throughout the movie to the point where when Reese really gets injured in the warehouse, she goes, on your feet, soldier, now. And you're like, there it is. There it is.
I love that, because you have that scene where he's explaining to her that this was his chance to meet the legend that taught John everything he knew.
Yep.
And you're like, at that moment when he's telling you that, how does she become that person? But then, like, you see her dress his field wound, and she's just naturally good at that. And then you get the on your feet soldier line later, and it's like, it's in there.
Yep.
It's in there even though she doesn't know it.
Plot twist, Sarah taught Reese everything, who in turn taught John. Like, it's a weird fucking circle.
Well, Reese taught Sarah.
Reese taught Sarah, and there's like, oh, I wanted to meet the legend who we learned everything from.
So in all technicality, Reese taught himself.
Yep, Reese taught himself. Bum, 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 bum.
The Terminator timeline is
Fucked
an
up.
absolute fucking mindfuckery, and I think Cameron did that on purpose so that you could never fully explain it.
It makes sense. It really does with a film with the legacy that it has. If this had one linear timeline, everybody would be like, excuse me, nope, this can't happen. But with a multiverse timeline, none of those people can fight you. None of them. Because it's like, all right, well, explain this, then explain this. There's a multiverse. Like, you shut up and stop. Like, it's the same thing with Marvel. At one part, Marvel was very linear, very much linear. And very recently, it's no longer linear. And it's beautiful. And I like when directors do this type of stuff because it's a possibility for a fanfic story or somebody else's vision to become this grander thing. I think it's ingenious when storytellers do this. Like, okay, here's my idea. Let's implement that. There's some plot holes. Tell you there's a multiverse. Tell you there's different timelines. Go. Do your own thing. Write your own story. Endless possibilities.
This actually kind of touches on something that I was thinking about. There's a moment in this movie. It's right after they get away from the Terminator. She dresses his wound. They're underneath that, like, bridge.
Yeah, the overpass or some crap. Yeah.
But we have him towards the end of that scene. We stay with Reese as, like, he's telling Sarah a story about the future. I believe we're kind of with him when it transitions. So we assume that this is his memory or his dream that we're seeing. And we get, he takes us through this image of the future where it's brutal. You see kids hunting rats for food, and they're hunkered in front of a TV
A burning
with a
television.
fire in it, like just trying to
stay warm.
And it's
innocence is completely
awful.
gone.
They're living underground like rats. They're, I don't know. Honestly, it's could possibly be inspiration for something like The Matrix that would come later.
Honestly, I could see that. I definitely could.
Your point about like multiverses and like the timelines and everything is like, we come back from this scene with Sarah waking up.
Yes.
And she immediately says, I was dreaming about dogs. And in that sequence, you see dogs pointing out a Terminator.
Yes.
So I don't know, it's weird. Were we seeing Sarah's dream based on the story he was telling her? Or was she dreaming
while he was telling her about his home?
The future. Like, I don't know. Like, is it a prophetic thing?
I think that's what James was leaving it to. Is leaving it up to your imagination. You figure out where you want that to be. I hope that it was Sarah listening to the story, putting her own pieces together.
That feels better to me. I hope it wasn't a prophetic thing.
Honestly, I don't like doing anything prophetic or prophet-like. It seems like a cop-out sometimes in these kind of movies.
It generally is.
If there is a reason for some sort of like magical element, fine, maybe. There's no magical element. This is like technology versus humans. Very cut and dry. If this was supposed to feel like a prophecy, I'm not buying it.
No.
Nope. I'm thinking this is Sarah just dreaming about what she's talking about and seeing how important she must be for this future to not, like, this future can't happen. We've got to do something.
Well, there is also, it just comes the prophetic elements come naturally when you set up a story like this, where essentially none of it can happen without
this one
element. Like, so like Kyle coming back is the only reason John Connor exists in the first place. So like, there's definitely a predestined element there.
Yeah.
Which is in itself prophetic.
Yes.
So after they get away, comes the infamous scene where they shack up in a motel. And yes, Reese confesses his love to Sarah, even though he knows he probably shouldn't have. And this definitely reads to me every time as like she's in the most vulnerable state she could be, and throws herself at him, which it happens. It's a thing. Like, so I understand.
This took me out of it a little. And my note is, I'm sorry. You fell in love with her because of a photo and John talking about her all your life. And now she is a 19-year-old vulnerable girl running away from something she has no clue. And now you're going to make the sex?
I understand where you're coming from with that. Yes, it does sound creepy and sleazy.
Really
and
sleazy.
But I actually thought that was very interesting, because when you really think about Reese's love for Sarah, he never truly knew her all his life. He grew up, as you said, he was given a photo of her when he was young. And he was told all about her from John. But it's like his love for her stemmed from the idea of who she was. So like, it's like being in love with a celebrity that you crushed on.
That's what I said. He's fucking his celebrity crush right now.
Yeah. And like, but you also have to take that into account during his situation. So, yes, as a kid, or when you're younger, you have crushes on, like, celebrities and stuff that you see in movies.
Younger? Have you seen my stack of bullshit over here?
So...
I have a boyfriend, and I still have husbands in other countries.
He grew up in a war-torn landscape.
And he did mention that he's never been with a woman.
Right.
He doesn't know love.
He's never been with a woman. He has this idea of who the perfect woman is because of John. And that idea of her, that love he developed for her, is all he held on to throughout the turmoil.
It's sleazy and creepy, but it's also amazingly romantic and sad. It's like, guys, oh, okay, all right, well, okay. That's how I felt.
But
I was like, oh,
you can
all
understand
right.
why he took that, why he volunteered, why he took the opportunity to go back and prevent her from dying.
And it wasn't like he was like, hey, I'm in love with you, here's my dick.
No.
There was an element of her being very vulnerable and hearing the story and being like, I'll show you what a woman's touch is, which is very sweet.
It's sweet. And he also does try to resist her.
He does. He does try to resist. And I do have a note that said, oh, nice hand placement. Maybe we won't see. And there's her tits. I really did not think we were going to see Linda Hamilton's boobs.
It's very
I really
brief,
was
though.
hoping that there was a nice placement. And then I'm remembering like, oh, paint me like one of your French girls. Just all of Kate Winslet just standing there. James Cameron is good at tasteful nudity.
He's tasteful.
Very tasteful.
Even this was pretty
tasteful. It was
tasteful.
This was very passionate. It was one of those moments where it's like, I'm watching sex I shouldn't watch. This is between the two people there. I'm going to be over here. Because you know at the end, it makes a baby out of love.
Yes.
This isn't a angry, passionate, I'm going to fuck you because I hate you. This is, we're fighting for our lives. We don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like Sarah knew where John was going to come from, but Reese didn't. Like, Reese was like, oh, never in a million years did I think John's my kid.
See, I actually believed the same thing for a long time. Like, I figured Reese never had that notion in his head. However, really listening to it this time, I wonder if he did.
Or if he put two and two together once he was in the future?
Well, no, not so much in the future. Like, it's felt like when right before they have sex.
Make the sex.
He's explaining, that's when he tells her about the picture. And, like, he gave me a picture of you once. I never knew what it meant.
Oh, because she does say to John on the thing that's your father. And he's like, oh, she never mentions his dad. Ever.
Which I definitely don't think John ever told him.
No.
But I think he figured it out.
Or he put so much pressure on, Kyle, you have to be the one that goes back. You're the only one who can save my mother.
Yeah.
Because you're going to save her with your dick.
But I think that was...
Right?
I think he knew.
It was like one of those things where he's going, no. Do I get to fuck your mom? Like that realization, like, why?
Can you imagine if he had gotten to go back? He just comes through the time portal. He's stark naked. He comes back. He's breathing heavy. He's like, John, I fucked your mom.
Dude, not cool, man. You wouldn't be here without me. Come give Daddy a hug.
God, that would have been hilarious.
Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. So after that wonderful bullshit, I was really, really upset that the Terminator killed her mom.
Yes.
I was so pissed at that. I'm thinking to myself, no, he wouldn't stoop that low. Or maybe she's just genuinely talking to her mom on the phone, and I'm like, he can mimic.
Yep.
He's a robot. No, why would you kill her mom? That's so heartbreaking. And that's why she's on the run. Because she has Nobody.
Exactly.
She loses everyone. And John becomes her whole fucking life.
Which is why she dedicates everything to making him the man he's supposed to be.
Oh my god, like this whole, like, there's a circle of fucking life here, and it's just fucked up, man.
It's brutal.
Oh.
This is a brutal story. Like, I love this movie. Like, I always have. I like most of the Terminator stuff, barring some rough moments it's had.
Are all of the rough moments in our wheelhouse?
No.
Because I know that
almost none of them.
Genesis, people were pissed.
The only two we get to cover are this and
Judgment Day. You never saw the newer one that came out a couple of years ago.
I did not, and I do need to. I need to watch it.
Did you ever watch Genesis?
Yeah, I have Genesis.
The one with Matt Smith?
Yeah. That one's not terrible, but I can see why people hate it.
I mean, a lot of people are, for movies like this that are classics, people are very purist about it. Like, if you, Star Wars, if you fuck with the story that they perceive in their head, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Cut, clean, dry, done.
We get fucking Rian Johnson trying to come back from that one. He's succeeding.
Honestly, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to get hate. I didn't see that much of a problem with the Star Wars movies because it could be a multiverse thing. There are so many stories that Disney took out of canon after Jedi, and I was really pissed about that because I loved the Solo twins, the Skywalker kids, Mara Jade. I love all that.
Disney's already come out saying that episodes 7, 8, and 9?
Yeah, they're not canon
are
anymore.
not canon anymore because people got upset.
Honestly, don't backpedal. Do not backpedal.
No, own what you did
Stand
and fucking
your
move on.
ground. Yes.
People are still going to go see them.
Yeah. I'm still going to watch them. Why? Oh my God, Adam Driver.
We're not going to dwell on Star Wars here, though.
Look, once we get to Star Wars, guys, it's going to get a little violent. Because I am a episode 3, 4, 5. No, 4, 5, 6. Like,
yeah.
I hate the prequels. I'm not the biggest fan of the other ones, but I have opinions, and I'm sticking to them. So then we get to the big climax of the whole movie.
Oh, yes.
I hated the music.
Really?
The music seemed very, like, it was the synth music, but it had a little bit, like, of an orchestrated background. I hated it. Pick one.
Well, if you notice throughout the entirety of the movie, there's a clear divide in the score. So, like, when you're with the Terminator, you have that very heavy, percussion-based, bombastic kind of tone, and then
when you're with
all the other scenes are synth-driven.
Yes.
So, like, I think that ending kind of brings them together.
I didn't like it.
No?
It took me a little bit out of it. I'm like, this music seems very... One, I thought it was a little too loud. And two, it kind of took me out of it a little. I'm like, honestly, if their music was like the 80s synthy kind of thing, and his was that percussion, that bass, I would have intensified his and lower theirs. Because it's getting to the point where he's catching up to them. He's going to get them.
Yeah.
It just, the synth was like too much. I was like, tone it down. Don't take it out completely, but tone it down. Like, I love synth as much as you do. Like, we're both big fans of synth music, but man, sometimes it can be too much.
Let's see. I can definitely see where you're coming from. Like, the score does get pretty heavy towards the end, and I can see why that would be distracting.
It's just, it took me out of it just a little bit, especially when they're running from a truck. That was interesting. But this is why it was creepy, because it just flashes at you. Gotta obey the water bottle.
That ending, though, however, does showcase to you that this thing is fucking unstoppable. This motherfucker is gonna keep coming even if you blow the bastard to pieces.
He was driven over by a semi, blown up, and I'm sitting there going, fucking Sarah, stay behind that motherfucking wall. He is not dead. He is coming up like the fucking Crypt Keeper, like, I'm coming to get you.
He was blown up twice.
Exactly.
Twice. In the same scene.
Okay, both Reese and the Terminator when they're point blank, they're great. They're great at shots. Why do they keep missing each other when they're point blank? Every time. It's like, I realize it's a plot device, but like shoot one of the other one in the leg.
It's the writing. They have plot armor.
I fucking hate that. Annihilate the bitch. Fuck the plot armor, kids. Oh, let's see. I'm saving that for my favorite line then. Arnie's one-liners in this movie are fucking amazing.
Fuck you, asshole.
Fuck you, asshole. That explosion of that truck.
Huge.
Wow. And the actress is right there.
Yeah. They did a good job.
I want to know if she shit her pants or not. I need to know, because I would have heard that and been like, that's a lot of heat. And I've shit. Like, I would have, ooh.
I was actually trying to tell if that was a composite.
I don't think so.
There were a couple shots in there that, like, it all happens very quick. The cutting gets really intense. So, like, there was a couple shots I was like, it almost looks like she's composited in front of it.
Almost, but the shadows and the intensity of the oranges on her body make me feel like she went, sure, let's try this.
I mean, they could have matched it, but I don't know.
Linda Hamilton is a fucking badass.
That's true.
She has a reputation, and what if this was her first movie where she went, let's see what happened, just don't get the hair, there's a lot of Aquanet in this, you know?
The climax of this movie is pretty iconic in its own right. I mean, essentially it was the inspiration for for a big scene in Child's Play 2.
Which I've never seen any of the Child's Play movies.
We will get there.
I have never seen the climax of this inside the plant. So you probably noticed me doing I kept fidgeting because I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna get crushed. Like, I got nervous. The climax got me.
Pretty tense.
It is tense because I've never seen it, and I was like, please don't hurt her. If you hurt her, I will jump through the screen and kill all of you. Don't hurt her.
We get the unfortunate death of Kyle.
That was necessary though.
It was necessary.
Oh mad, but it was like, no, this makes sense, son of a bitch.
But it was perfect. And you know, James Cameron has an affinity for falling in love in a brief period of time in his movies.
James Cameron, Jack could have fit on that motherfucking door, you asshole, and he could have survived. I'm not letting it go. We're talking about James. I'm gonna call him out for his bullshit
Titanic
every time. Titanic is gonna be long. It's gonna be so long. But anyways, he does like love fast and Die Hard.
Yeah.
Love fast, Die Hard. Like, they were intensely like, they would have built a life together.
Well, Sarah says it pretty well in the end, that like they only knew each other for a few brief hours, but they loved for a lifetime.
Oh my god, must have been some real good sex. Damn.
But it was really cool. Like, he does that often. If you take into account this, Titanic, fucking even Avatar. Like,
yep.
Love happens quickly, and I get it. It makes the story stronger.
Yeah.
And he uses it very fucking well in this movie.
Anytime he uses these kind of love fast diehards, I'm like, this is not realistic. And I've never, ever known anybody to fall that hard that fast.
No.
But it is the fight or flight thing. Like, what are your main instincts when you're just a basic life form? Fight, flight, fuck, procreate, keep going. Like,
yeah.
it covers all the bases of what a war-torn kind of world would look like to him versus her now being thrusted into this.
Yes.
It makes sense. It's stupid. It makes sense.
This climax also gives us quite possibly one of the best final lines.
You're terminated, fucker. I started laughing. I was like, I love it. That was so good.
It's a good send off, and I also thought the final scene of the movie where we see Sarah, she's pregnant, and the little boy takes the photo of her that would then be given to Reese later in life.
Yep.
And the last shot we see is her driving headlong into the coming storm. Like, it's so telling of what's to come.
That's a matte painting, by the way.
Oh, of course it's a matte painting.
That was definitely. I was like, you guys could have gone location with this, but I get the storm thing, so it's fine.
But it's really good.
It is good.
Yeah, I guess that about brings us to overall thoughts about the film.
It was boring. I'm sorry. It takes a while to get me. I don't get into it until the end. And that's when I get into it. The story is unrealistic. It's too actiony for me. I've never liked action movies. I never have. There are some action movies I do like. This is not one of them. But it is a good film. It is a good classic. I understand why. I understand why the one-liners and the lines that have been said for years have been said for fucking years. I will say, it's good. Not my cup of tea or coffee, as, you know, we drink. But still good.
For me, this is a fucking classic. I love this film. I'm never not going to love this film, even with the some minor flaws that it has. This movie kicks so much ass. It's an action classic. It's a slasher classic. It's the birth of Arnold as a fucking icon.
I'll be back.
I love this movie. I'm never gonna not. It's hard to see it as anything but a great film for me.
I have to ask, how old were you when you first saw this movie?
This one? Ooh.
Because if you tell me a certain age, I'm going to be like...
No, this one...
Excuse me, Shawn's mom, there were titties and sex in this. Why did he go watch this?
This one, I'm pretty sure I saw this after T2 growing up.
So you saw the second Terminator before the first one?
Yeah, and I still love this one more.
Well, I can see why. From your perspective, I've known you for a little bit, and I kind of understand how you think. I understand why you like this. It ticks all the boxes for you. And it's a slasher. This is in all of your, like, yup, this is perfect. I see why this is a classic for you. I see why it's not for me. It's just not what I like. It's not my kind of movie, so.
Well, I can understand.
It still breaks your heart, though.
It does. Because it's rare that I meet somebody who doesn't like the Terminator. So, I don't know. I get it. Favorites.
Favorite line. I have a couple of them. That son of a bitch took my pants. And I'm going to make a belt out of you. For the iguana when the iguana scares her. Those are my two favorite lines. I think my favorite scene would probably be when when the two cops are reassuring her, there's 30 cops in here, don't worry, nothing will happen. Cut to brutally massacring 30 cops. Like, it's like, how ironic. You can't protect her because you don't believe that this is a big deal. You think Reese is a nutcase.
In terms of actual dialogue, I think my favorite line is, it's kind of a cop-out one, but discounting, of course, the infamous stuff, like, come with me if you want to live.
Get out.
All that stuff. My favorite line in the whole movie is, the future is not set. It's when Reese is recounting the letter he made him John made him memorize to tell to Sarah. That dialogue is very strong, and that line, that one, the future is not set, has always stuck with me, and it's become a major plot point in the entire series. But it's so strong. That just speaks that no matter what happens, we still have a chance to change things.
Yeah, you can always change things. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And I'm surprised they've never done anything where it was like they used that as a driving force to like save Reese. I understand things are set in motion, so they kind of have to happen.
I'm going to Doctor Who you for a second. It's a fixed point in time.
It's a fixed
Deaths
point in time.
are always fixed points in time.
My favorite scene in the movie has to be when that car scene when Reese lays out everything about the future and John to Sarah. That scene is so powerful to me. Like the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the performances that they give, and it's all in this fucking. They're in the front seat of a car, crouched. Like it's such a strange place to do.
Not hiding from the Terminator. They're hiding from cops trying to find them.
Yeah,
because they don't understand the situation. Obviously,
that's a great scene. It's my favorite scene in the whole movie. Despite all the action. Does it work?
Yeah. Yes. It does work. I can't really explain why it works, but I think because it's my first viewing. But it does work because from knowing the future stories and knowing how much of a legacy Sarah Connor has and the Terminator has and everything, it just works. This is a great film. I found it boring. Others might not.
Others don't.
Wow.
I, of course, think this works. Yes, there are parts that don't land as well now. These effects don't hit to people who are fucking obsessed with CGI or grew up with it. But I think it's all still effective. I think it all still impacts the way it should. James Cameron knows what the fuck he's doing.
He's always known what the fuck he's doing.
He knows how to make a lasting, impressionable experience.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an action film. Yes, it's a horror film. Just not your typical of either.
It's unconventional of both.
Yes.
And that's why I think people love it, because it's very different.
Yes.
It's a very different film.
This is honestly one of the earliest tech horrors, like that cyber horror type of situation. Like you didn't really have that before this.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
To certain people, yes. A lot of my friends would be like, I'm not watching Terminator. That's fine. But there are other people that I'd be like, oh, I know you like these types of movies. Try this. I personally will not watch this again. I've seen it once. I'm good. I've seen a classic. And I told you, we're going to tick off all the classics, so I've seen them.
Yes.
But I don't have to watch them again if I don't want to.
No.
So.
I think this works. I would recommend it to basically anyone. I know that there are certain people that I would recommend it to who probably wouldn't like it. Honestly, I was hoping you would like it, but I had a feeling you might not.
You can't win them all there, Shawnee.
So, yes. If you haven't seen The Terminator, if you grew up only seeing T2, you should go back, watch the first one, because it is a good experience to have.
Surprisingly good. I'm not an action person. That's why I thought it was boring. I don't know. I might warm up to it after like talking with you about stuff. I might warm up to some movies. There are movies up there. They're firm fucking no, and you can't change my mind. This one, I could warm up to it, but I don't need to see it again.
How would you make this today?
I'd really want this to be a series. I'd want to see more of the past, or I mean more of the future. I'd want to see more of... I like the fact that they're movies and they're all different, but I would like to see one big cohesive story. So I would like a series on this.
It's funny that you say that. There is a Terminator series.
Is there?
It's Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Oh, I think I've heard of this. Okay.
Somewhat, it has its enjoyable moments, but
Have you watched all of it?
yes, it got canceled after like the second or third season, but for good reason. It was ultimately terrible.
You can't win them all.
I personally, they're gonna make sequels until they drive this thing into the fucking grave.
Or Arnie or Linda die.
Or Arnie or Linda. No, honestly, I think they'll continue after that.
You think so?
But I don't think this should be made today. I think it worked when it did. If you're gonna do anything more with the Terminator franchise, just use the first film as a jumping off point. Treat the timeline like you would any other timeline. It's fixed.
Like the Halloween timeline?
We're not getting into that. That's
another
that's a
day.
whole other can of worms. But yeah, I don't think this should be like, nobody should try to remake the Terminator. It's not. You can't outdo Cameron. Nobody's ever going to. Don't even fucking try.
Michael Bay might gun for it.
Michael Bay is gonna fail.
Wow! We have the same opinion about Michael Bay.
Is this exploitation or other?
After your explanation, yes.
Explain.
So you said this is a slasher film. This is an action film. This ticks a lot of boxes for the Grindhouse checklist. I believe it is definitely for a certain type of people. Back then, it just happened to catch a hell of a lot more people than anticipated. I see it more as an action film, so I think it ticks like the action, suspense, romance, but I think because of the slasher aspect, it is exploitation.
To some degree, I will agree with you. I do think this can be quantified as an exploitation film. It's not. It's more of a like a mainstream film because of its popularity.
And its success.
And its success. But if you were to take the success away and just strip this down to just what the film is, yes, I do think this is something you would have seen in exploitation in Grindhouse cinemas during the early 80s.
If this didn't do well, that's exactly where it would be.
Yeah, honestly, it may have played in them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slasher film. It milks its plot for what it can. Like, you get nudity, you get violence, you get action.
You do have a little bit of humor. There is a little humor, yeah.
There's murder, there's mayhem, there's fucking...
There's absolute chaos at points.
Lots of death. The fucking antagonist is a murderous machine from the future. Like, that's a very exploitation idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that this qualifies as exploitation. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about the movie?
I didn't hate it as much as I thought it would.
I'm glad to hear that.
Going through this, like, you guys heard my reaction to the trailer when we watched it last week. I was like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to sit through this boring ass movie. It wasn't that boring. I got bored because it was just, it's not my cup of tea. But I can see why people love this movie. It's very different. Like, hearing someone else's opinions about a movie that I don't like definitely makes you go, all right, okay, you have a point. Yeah, okay, you have a point. Point in case why we're doing this. Yes. Somebody like me who could absolutely hate a film. Oh, I hate that film. Oh, I'll never see it just based on the cover, what people have talked about. But actually physically watching it, it's changed my mind a little. I won't ever watch it again, but I can say, I watched it. I enjoyed it.
You know, hopefully it's not just us changing each other's minds or getting each other to think a different way. Hopefully some of you give movies a second chance because of this.
Yep.
Hopefully we can have guests at some point and see what they think. And
I would love to have a guest who can't stand a certain genre of films on.
yeah,
Make them watch a film. Like my younger brother.
hates horror films.
He hates horror films. He's not a horror fan. Horror physically bothers him. I would love to be like, all right, well, here, read this synopsis. Watch this with us. We really want your opinion on this. And we'll pick a movie that's not
Too
bad. I mean, he actually expressed to us a couple days ago that he would do this. But we're like, we're going to make you watch horror. And he's like, oh. But I would love that. You know, I would love to have him on to watch a horror film and be like, what do you think of horror during this era when it wasn't so scary, when it wasn't so crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, that about brings this discussion to an end, but don't go anywhere just yet. Stay tuned for the coming attractions.
Ooh.
In the dark of the night, something strange is going on.
You see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Sure.
They ship those bodies. Well, say hello.
The dead have risen from the grave,
Mister, there's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100?
and now the question is, how do we get them back into the ground?
Bert, Frank, we have a little problem.
4 left. 10 right.
It's all over everything! Stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job! Like this job!
Medical science is baffled.
And it's a puzzle, because technically, you're not alive.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
How do you kill something that's already dead?
Well, how do I know, Fred? I don't know. Let me think.
It's not a bad question, Bert. In that movie, they destroyed the brain to kill him. Is that what they did? The brains, right.
I hit the brain. Oh! Get it off! 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 Get it off!
The military is nervous.
How was your day?
Usual crap.
The police are confused.
Send more cops.
It worked in the movie! Well, it ain't working now. Bring the movie line!
It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert.
The return of the living dead.
I am very excited for you to see this movie.
I honestly have no thoughts about this movie.
Have you ever seen anything on this one?
Never.
And that, I think, is even better.
I've never seen anything on this one. I've never heard anything on this one. I just know that there is a Night of the Living Dead. There's this one, and there's this third one.
We will get into the relation between them when we actually watch the movie. But I think it's really cool that you get to go into this movie.
I am blind.
Completely blind.
I've
Most
never-
people don't get that opportunity. I think you might enjoy it.
I went in Sleepwalkers blind. Oh boy.
But that was an interesting experience.
That was a ride. Oh boy.
Yes, Return of the Living Dead, absolute classic for most horror fans. It's a beloved film for many people. I'm hoping you enjoy it as much as I do.
I hope so.
But that brings us to an end for today. For more recommendations on films or coffees you should check out, if you want to check out our movie collection, see some fun behind the scenes, chat with us a little bit, recommend us some movies, come find us on Facebook and Instagram at Grindhouse Podcast. We're on Twitter at GrindhouseCast. We have a Discord that Leah runs, so you'll be able to talk to her there.
Hello.
All the links for everything are going to be down in the description below. Listen to us, give us 5 stars on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your morning fix. New episodes are first thing every Monday morning, so check us out, give us a listen, let us know what you think, comment, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
If you're listening to the podcast and you want a more visual experience, subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can get every single episode in its entirety with video. But also, if you like what you are hearing or seeing, and you want to support what we're doing, all that information is down in the description below. Until next week, I'm Shawn.
And I'm Leah.
Thank you for listening, and keep watching.
My goal is to make him laugh every time I say my fucking name. Do you think I can do it?